Woman's backyard project is making the whole neighborhood jealous. Lauren Ashworth is not your everyday homemaker. For starters, she doesn't live in a suburb, but on a farm. She's a working woman, but her office is right within her home where she runs her popular blog, Little White House. While staying home even more than usual during the pandemic, she had the idea to build an outdoor structure that would bring her backyard to the next level. Lauren's bright idea, however, actually ended up setting off a huge trend she never could have anticipated. With summer coming around, Lauren desperately wanted a slice of the outdoors at her disposal. While a vacation would have been great, she instead turned her gaze to her backyard. This blogger and Instagram mom wouldn't let anything get in the way of her big plans.
Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
It would be one thing to undertake this project for herself, but Lauren was acting with her family in mind. Once the temperature began to rise, her son would want to play outside, so she did some research on backyard spaces. They had to be careful not to overdo it with their Birmingham, Alabama home. That's because the Ashworths live on Stillwater Farm, a historic 100-year-old homestead that they've carefully renovated and made their own. Lauren's plans for the yard weren't exactly traditional, but she hoped that the idea taking shape in her mind matched the classiness of Stillwater. When Lauren documented her initial plans on her blog, it was clear that the Ashworths would need to borrow some heavy-duty vehicles and special tools. If that wasn't daunting enough, many of this supermom's readers weren't even familiar with the structure she had in mind. Who says being outside has to mean an intense duel with nature? When it came to Lauren's vision, she wanted a peaceful escape instead, so she went about building what's called a pergola, an outdoor, column-supported structure that also has a roof to protect from the elements. Of course, Lauren would put her own spin on it. Wide open spaces are key to building a pergola you'll want to keep, especially when it comes to the average size of a city dweller's backyard. Since she's from Alabama, Lauren's yard was more than big enough, which is to say, it's important to measure your land appropriately. She just hoped her family would be on board. Some DIYers drive their loved ones up the wall with non-stop projects. But for Lauren, she knew that something like a pergola would benefit her loved ones, even though they never envisioned such an amenity in their wildest dreams. All it took was that first bit of initiative on her end to spark a movement in their backyard. Once Lauren's husband knew she was serious, he stepped into first gear with lending a helping hand, taking measurements and markings before construction was officially underway. Here he is spray painting where the supports would go. A little planning went a long way, especially since Lauren kept adding features. What made Lauren's pergola special was that it wasn't simply a pergola, but a mutation of one. Hers would include a fire pit, which also presented a challenge of making sure the roof stayed away from the flames. She didn't want to burn down her pride and joy, after all. Lauren chose to make a permanent structure out of her pergola, which came with a lot of heavy lifting she couldn't manage on her own. Luckily, her husband helped a ton, but you could alternatively opt for a nylon or cloth version that can be easily put up or down. Lauren pointed out that before getting started, you'll want to make sure that your tool shed is stocked enough to get the job done in one go. Nothing's worse than having to put a project on pause for the sake of finding more tools. Her list included everything from a reciprocating saw to a post hole driller. Just because your son or daughter is too young to hold a power tool doesn't mean they can't be part of the process. Lauren is a big do-it-yourself kind of blogger, and here's her son's handprint gracing the barn she worked on. Remember, design and sentimentality are all part of the process. Granted, Lauren's version of this project was pretty luxurious and came with a bunch of add-ons like Adirondack chairs and, of course, the fire pit. It cost her around $2,300, but she pointed out that you could totally make it work with less if you know what you're after. Still, she was sure the pergola would be worth the investment. In addition to a number of hand-built chairs, Lauren planned on installing swing benches beneath the horizontal posts. There really would be room for all of her friends and family. They couldn't wait to see the final product. The Ashworths were pooped by the time they were almost done building, and Lauren stressed that it's so important to take care of your mind, body, and spirit when taking on large-scale tasks. If you're feeling too tired, there's no shame taking a breather like Lauren's son in the truck. But when he next opened his eyes, he knew he'd soon see the final product. Lauren's pergola is famously a place for her to relax with friends and family outdoors. But it's also a double, if not triple or quadruple functioning structure that hosts the likes of a projector screen for fun movie nights. Do be sure to consider what uses your pergola might have that are particular to your lifestyle. Part of the joys of building a pergola is having an altogether separate structure. It's not an extension of your house, but rather a house all on its own. Don't shy away from stocking it up with treats, sunscreens, and blankets for use anytime, independently of your home. What's unique about having a built-in zone for watching movies or draping any kind of fabric is that it lends the space to themed parties. Have a 4th of July idea coming up? All it takes is pitching up an American flag where the projector fabric normally goes, and voila. Of course, the open-air design has some drawbacks. Lauren's pergola isn't what we'd call weatherproof. It doesn't snow often in Alabama, but this storm did transform her backyard into a winter wonderland, though it does look a little chilly. Be sure to consider how you want your pergola to function as the warmth turns to cold, and think about ways to set it up for a year-long function. Little did Lauren know, after she posted her new creation online, it would go completely viral and catapult her into the international home decor limelight. After all, when you have a following of around 30,000 people, word travels fast. But that's not what this mom is most proud of. If Lauren's project has taught us anything, it's that the little things in life are well worth putting the biggest effort into. It might have taken many hours and labor, but the pergola was ultimately a project she started for the sake of fun and love with those who matter most. Family. And many of the most passionate DIY fanatics will stop at nothing to make their family happy. Not everyone has Lauren's skills or thousands of dollars to burn, of course. But that didn't stop Tom Cole from pulling off his own backyard project in that same year. He challenged himself to create a low-cost play area for his daughter, and the final product left many dyers inspired. At just 3 years old, Tom Cole's daughter Milla noticed some pretty sweet tree houses online. She was instantly enamored. I mean, what little kid wouldn't want a little lair of their own? She couldn't get it out of her head, which gave Tom an idea. In their UK home, there was a patch of their backyard behind the shed that served no purpose. Tom wondered if he could feasibly come up with some sort of play structure to sit there that would blow Milla's mind. Still, there was one major snag. The little corner of the back garden lacked a tree, so Tom would have to think creatively for his design. What could he make all on his own that would still shatter Milla's expectations? Luckily, Tom was handier than your average Joe. He was actually a former carpenter. Though after becoming a father, he realized the long and irregular shifts didn't appeal to him anymore, so he made a drastic life change. Tom switched careers. Still utilizing some of his carpentry skills, he began repairing mobility scooters. Not only did it allow him to be at home with Milla, but he also really fell in love with the rewarding nature of his work. Given his general handiwork, Tom's shed was stocked with various odds and ends that would fit well in Milla's special playhouse. He even had some lumber left over from a few fires. It looked like he was going to pull the whole thing off without spending a cent. Things got even better when Tom scored free pallets from his neighbor, as he explained. I know they can be sourced free, and the guy I get them from is happy enough to give them to me, but I wanted to give him a little something as thanks. So Tom tossed the guy a 10-pound note, roughly $12, to snag a couple beers. It just didn't seem right to walk away with all that building material at no cost, not when he knew what he was about to turn it into. The next part was hands down the worst part of the process, stripping down the pallets. During the hours of tedious and careful work, Tom's vision for the tree house grew grander and more involved. I did it slowly over the course of a few weeks. There is only so much pallet stripping one can take at a time, to be fair, Tom said. During those painstaking hours, His pint-sized project supervisor was there to bounce ideas off of. Mila played assistant to her dad on the Playhouse project, overseeing and making sure things were up to her standard. In all seriousness, Tom was very glad they were able to create that memory of creating something from scratch. Since there was no tree, Tom decided to attach the upright beams directly to the fence. Their yard backs up to a private parking lot, so he didn't have to worry about the potential of infringing on a neighbor's view. From there, Tom built the deck platform, attached handrails, and decided to add an enclosed roof. He used entirely salvaged materials, including some felt to finish off the peaks of the roof. The last addition to the structure was a sturdy staircase to ensure Mila's safety. Of course, there were a few personalized details that made it an even bigger labor of love, including the heart-shaped peek-through on the door. When it was all done, Tom was able to kick back, rest, and watch Mila enjoy her playhouse. It was a productive way to spend several weeks of his quarantine cooped up with his daughter, and he wasn't the only one impressed by the final product. Feeling proud of his incredibly thrifty playhouse, Tom shared photos of the project in a Facebook group called DIY on a Budget UK. The post gained a lot of attention from the online community of home improvement buffs and fellow bored parents stuck inside. The engagements with Tom's Playhouse project grew by the thousands, and many made sure to comment on what a lucky little girl Mila is to have such a skilled and proactive dad. For Tom, it was an excuse to merge his two favorite passions. Tom was made something out of nothing and spent quality time with Mila. I'm proud of her, that's for sure. People say I should be proud of building it. All I aim to do is make her happy, which I guess I have done. Tallying up the numbers at the end of the project was laughable. Tom had only shelled out that one payment to the neighbor for the pallets, so the price tag of Mila's playhouse was a whopping $12.